Welcome to the channel. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. Today we're looking at the Wellymurk WM212, a skin diver with very modern aesthetics, specifications and a very good and solid build quality. All for £104, which is a ridiculously low amount of money and a whole lot of watch. The WM212 is available in two different colours, the one in hand which is a mix of different blues, and then you have a minty chocolate colourway which does remind me of the odd colours used by San Martin. Now, as I said in the intro, the watch is really well put together. It's not just about having all the specifications, but how it looks overall and the build quality and in-hand feel. What separates good watches from the not so good comes down to finishing. The proportionate 41mm case features satin brush sides which feel incredibly smooth in hand, and they've decided to go with fully polished lugs, which might be an odd choice. But combined with that polished lip of that bezel and the polished beads in the center of the bracelet, it does match up quite nicely. The case back has a large mineral glass display and a thin steel edge with specifications. I really like the way they've done this. It gives it a very OEM feel, and you see this style of case backs on original manufacturers, you see it on micro brands, and it's good attention to detail. Now the bracelet is also finished surprisingly well for being around £100. Satin brush down the side links, very consistent machine brushing, and you've got the polished center beads. Now the beads, however, are not individual. This is a 3-link bracelet, but being so well finished, it's a trade-off you're willing to accept. I also feel they have nailed down the functional aspect. Clasp uses a 6 micro adjustment fold over milled clasp with excellent finishing, also satin on the top with polished bevels on either side. You also get female end links on the bracelet, which makes that 47mm lug to lug wear incredibly well on the majority of wrist sizes. Now another trade-off here is the use of split pins, which are cheaper but easily sized, and it doesn't really affect the beads of rice style as much as the others. Now there's a slight opportunity for improvement here. There is an uneven gapping on the end links, and it is consistent across both the sides. Now even though they have used thicker 1.6mm spring bars, the gap is still present. Fortunately though, for most, it's nothing that will stick out or be an eyesore. You get a screw down crown, and you have very smooth and buttery threads, might I add. And these are the tiny details you've got to pay attention to. Again, backed up with the price point, it gives you a really good indication of how well built a watch is. Now let's move on to the bezel. It is quite solid. It is very tactile. It's kind of difficult with these gloves because of how kind of low profile that grip is, but with that gloves it's very easy. Yeah, it is solid. You've got 120 click unidirectional bezel, that blue ceramic insert, and the bezel rotation, as I can describe it, it does feel very tight. They've ensured the bezel does line up perfectly as well, and there is literally no play in that bezel at all. So I'd say this is why the WM212 is quite impressive. It's ticked quite a lot of boxes being such a budget option. The finishing is ideal and the functional aspects and quality is quite good, with the only odd gap on the end links so far. So the dial, it's those textured asphalt style dials, but with a nice bit of colour. Light blue fume with a grey white in the centre. Now they've used a chapter ring which is also pale blue with darker blue markings. It's precisely done as it does all line up, but one thing it also does, it does reveal that deep rehaut, which is worth mentioning if you're that guy. You know who you are. The rest of the dial is a mixture of applied and printed features. Majority is applied details, the rectangular hour markers with large polished frames. You also got the polished applied logo, a beveled date frame with a black outline and printed text just above the 6. Then you have the very legible baton style handset which are outlined in black, and a large square pip, if you will, on that second hand, which is clearly oversized with that bit of red on the edge. Now here, it depends on how you look at it. It does look a little messy for me. I think the hour markers should have been outlined in black as well, so there's some consistency. The hands do stand out incredibly well, but to me, it doesn't look right against those polished hour markers. And the second hand could have been made just a little smaller. You also got a lume mismatch, which doesn't come across that clear on camera, but in person, the hands are brighter, whereas the white on the markers is quite a bit duller. Now, when we check the lume shot, we understand why. You've got BGW9 lume on the 12 o'clock marker on the bezel and also the dial hour markers, and the handset being C3. Now, I'm not sure if this was done on purpose or these were some off-the-shelf hands they decided to use. The lume is actually quite punchy though. very decent amount of layers because you get quite a bright and lasting glow. And these observations that I'm giving you are actually quite particular. Some may see them and think there's no issue with it, which is absolutely fine. But for someone who is a little bit more particular, these are the things to watch out for. But these again are subjective choices, and the statement still stands. It's really well built as a watch, and next to the price, it is still incredible. Now on wrist now, the watch definitely wears really well. It's got the right proportions and weighs a lot smaller than 41 millimeters, if you would believe it. And that's thanks to that short lug to lug and those female end links. Those female end links are going to sit nicely on a variety of wrist sizes. The watch is also very legible with great presence and an eye-catching colorway. Now the team over at WM212 have literally forced themselves into a very competitive price category, and I think they can definitely stand out and do quite well. They just need some fine adjustments and to iron out the finer details like the issues mentioned earlier, mainly regarding the dial consistency and the gap on the end links. Yet again, for £104, you can't knock it. It does so many aspects just right that you can potentially forget about the small niggles. And that concludes it from me today. Let me know your thoughts below and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you all for watching.